It's been a good week for Californians, at least the Californians who believe in science and minimum wage and things like that. Not only did California defeat the Republican recall this week and avoid the fate of a Larry Elder governor, but now California is the only state in the country that isn't in the highest bracket of transmission level when it comes to COVID-19. So take a look at this map, just pretty much a sea of red, except for, I believe, Puerto Rico, and I think, is that Hawaii there? Who are not in the highest level of transmission. So the state's transmission level has fallen from high to substantial, the second highest tier as defined by the CDC. I had no idea about these tiers because I need things in like the war on terror color codes, and we haven't had those. So I didn't even know these tiers existed, but California has gotten into the lower tier. We've achieved it. As of Tuesday night, California is the only state that has fallen into this category, as is Puerto Rico. The CDC scale evaluating coronavirus transmission levels categorizes states as being one of 4 tiers: worst, red, substantial, orange, moderate, yellow, low, blue. So California entered the second highest tier of coronavirus transmission Monday night, a tier it shared with 2 other states, Connecticut and Vermont, as well as the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. But by Tuesday night, Connecticut, Vermont, and the District of Columbia had fallen back into the worst tier. So, okay, what does this mean numbers wise? Let's talk about it. Nationwide, the US is seeing an average of 295 cases per 100,000 people and a positivity rate of 9.5%. California is seeing 20 new cases per 100,000 people and a positivity rate of 4.4%. So pretty good numbers. I wish I had compared them or could compare them to some places in the world. But honestly, it feels good because I feel like you look at the global hotspots and then you look at where the concentration of vaccines are, and it's the same place, and that is the United States of a exceptional America. And so it feels good that at least one state is taking the responsibility of having all the vaccines correctly and actually getting these numbers down.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, I'm sort of curious to hear a little bit more about what is it that California is doing that's different from where I am here in Connecticut. And I think I know, just in terms of it feels like there's it just feels like the percentage of people who are getting vaccinated is a little bit higher in California. But the other thing that strikes me with all this, I mean, the big news, of course, in California was the recall, as you mentioned right off the top. Gavin Newsom holding on. It is such great responsibility, in my view, to hold off on this news. Whoever had the news and the data, to wait until the recall election is over. And then you put it out there. And even though this is news that clearly would have favored Gavin Newsom, and in my view, it was great that Gavin Newsom was not recalled. It shows that there is a certain level of responsibility that still exists in politics when people are able to say, okay, let's just let the voters focus on the recall. And then after the election's over, then we can give them, here's the update in terms of all this news, in terms of how California is doing. So I thought that was an incredibly responsible and great, and adds credibility to the system. But again, congratulations to California. It has been a great week. And I just hope, usually what starts in California ends up across the United States anyway. Hopefully this is the beginning of a wave, a good wave in terms of the numbers coming down, that as the trend goes down in California, hopefully other states, at least those that take vaccination seriously, will also follow suit.
I mean, 100%. As much as I want to gloat being in California, I care about the rest of the nation. I truly do. And I agree with that. I mean, Connecticut, you got there for a little bit and then now you're back to higher transmissibility. But as David said, there's reasons for California doing better. One is they're more cautious than the CDC. So in July, the CDC said the vaccinated teachers and students don't need to wear masks inside school buildings. But California said its mask guidance for schools would remain in place. California residents are also more likely to be vaccinated than residents in other states. Honestly, as someone who's the sister of a Oakland public school teacher, I am very happy that the regulations are in place and students and their teachers, no matter their vaccination status, are masked. But you mentioned, David, the recall, and there is a map, and I'm gonna put up the map. There are obviously hotspots in California, 20 people per 100,000 is not great, but here is a map that shows the California recall results and the COVID heat map, or sort of where COVID is the worst. And I think we can all see the correlation. So in blue is where people voted to, yes, recall Gavin Newsom, maybe have Larry Elder, who doesn't believe in a minimum wage, as new governor, who doesn't believe in any kind of lockdown. And then you have the COVID heat map over here, and it's the same regions. And so you gotta wonder, like, what do the folks who voted for this recall want? Do they want the entire state to be, to have more transmissibility? Do they want more COVID? Like, I'm seriously, honestly, politically unclear, David. I don't know if you've figured this out yet. What is the Republican strategy here?
I think the Republican strategy is anti-science, anti-facts, and there's a selfishness that runs through it. I mean, if you look at these people who refuse to get vaccinated, they say, well, they're really not that concerned about infecting other members of the community. In other words, they are the consummate selfish people in your neighborhood, in your community. And so, but I thought that, kudos to whoever pulled up that map and made that comparison, because that is visually so gripping and so compelling, and it couldn't be more clear. And I think if you looked at the United States, and there it is, the California heat map on the left, of course, is where Gavin Newsom did well in I guess it's, let's see, the blue are the counties where the recall was strong, and then the red and the orange are where the vaccination rates are low and it's hot. I mean, I think Francesca, if we had a map of the United States, it would show the same thing. And that is, there is a direct correlation now between being a conservative and being at greater danger of dying from COVID-19. There's cause and there's effect. It couldn't be clearer. And yet there are people who still will see these maps and they'll say, oh, that's the media, you can't trust the media, or you can't trust the CDC, or you can't trust the National Institutes of Health or the FDA. At a certain point, our society has to figure out, well, what are we gonna do about these people who are the flat earthers in our society, who are endangering the rest of us? If they wanna go and stay at home all day long, never mix with the rest of the population, fine, don't be vaccinated, but don't send your kids to our schools, don't go to our grocery stores, don't mix with the rest of us. And they still do that. It is the height of irresponsibility, and they are causing all of us to be in danger because of this, and they're keeping the pandemic going. And if you don't like masks and you don't like vaccinations, the best thing you can do is try to end the damn pandemic. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, stopping the spread is what you need to be doing. And actually, you're 100% right that national maps do mirror what happens in California, that the places that are being hardest hit are redder states, are counties that did vote for Trump disproportionately, right? And it's very difficult because shoe on the other foot, if somehow Democrats sort of went down a bizarre rabbit hole and stopped believing in science and then started dying en masse, Republicans would be rubbing our faces in it. They would relish it and love it. And look, we're not. We're like, no, we want to get back to living our lives. We want actual freedom. We actually want to save the children by preventing them from dying, as we've seen, COVID in children actually claiming more and more of their lives, which is terrifying. That map was put together by the Lincoln Project, who I have a lot of problems with. I think they have problems with themselves, but their social media game stays crushing it. And look, I live in California, and I just want to say something about the recall. The other thing that the recall did that is not okay is I'm convinced that if there wasn't a recall, if there wasn't $300 million wasted on this undemocratic process a year before an actual election, I don't think we'd see these bad numbers of the Delta variant and of the surges, even in these redder counties. In fact, I think we would have stopped the spread even more because Gavin Newsom wouldn't have felt so much political pressure to not say do another lockdown, which honestly I think California should have done and may still need to do. And like, this is not hats off to him. This is actually on him. It's not okay to not go forward with a safety regulation just because you're afraid of your own political behind, right? And yet politicians do that all the time. That's what they're doing across this country. And so I hope that now that Newsom has defeated the recall, that he will do the smart thing. And if the surge, or if the Delta variant, and if the numbers are not going in the direction they need to be going in this state, that he will again ask for another lockdown and to have more money directed to small businesses and restaurants, et cetera, who need it and need the assistance.
Francesca, that is such an astute point politically, because I'm old enough to remember having covered the 2005 California recall of Gray Davis, when Arnold Schwarzenegger came in, and Gray Davis was paralyzed politically by that. I think maybe Gavin Newsom is a little bit sort of different, but your point is right on. I mean, if he's looking at losing his job, he's not going to be taking major risks, political risks, even if it's the right thing to do health-wise. And the other point that you make, which is so brilliant, we look at these conservatives who supported the recall, who wanted Gavin Newsom out of office, and in case after case, community after community, they also claim to be somehow pro-life. And yet it seems like over and over, these churches, these right-wing evangelicals are only pro-birth. We want you to be born, and then after that, you're totally on your own. And it doesn't really matter if the family infects everybody else and makes everybody else in danger if you die because of COVID or anything else, or malnutrition, or lack of education, or anything else. We just want you to be born. And to me, that it's like the ultimate hypocrisy that exists across evangelicals and conservatives in the United States. And it should be, Jesus said what? The second commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. That to me seems an obligation to get the vaccine. If you really care that you're a good Christian or Jewish or whatever it is, of course you should be getting the vaccine. That's how you take care of your community. And for these right-wing hypocrites to sort of throw up their hands and say, no, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. We only care about ourselves. To me, that's like the least Judeo-Christian thing they could possibly do.
Yes, it's like the late George Carlin said, if you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're effed.
Right.
And it's always true, stays true.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.